You remember the story about Theseus and the Minotaur. Well, what had happened on Crete is where it all gets started. Apparently, the queen of Crete had a close encounter of the very friendly kind with a bull. And the result of that was that she gave birth to a half man, half bull. And that's the Minotaur. The Minotaur is kept down in a labyrinth. We don't know exactly where that was. It could just have been the palace. If you take a look at the palace, it looks very much like a labyrinth. There's about 1,000 rooms in it, and it seems very likely that somebody who is from a village might not have known anything any more elaborate than that labyrinth. In any event, the king, Minos, goes out to all of his subordinate colonies and subordinate states, and he requisitions from them some young people to sacrifice to the Minotaur. Actually, the Minotaur kills them and eats them. And every few years, they collect up people and take them out there. And Theseus was the son of the king of Athens. The king of Athens' name was Aegis. In any event, Theseus volunteers to go to Crete. Now his idea is he's going to kill the Minotaur. Now that's not something that anybody else was planning to do. Nobody else was a volunteer. And when he gets to Crete, from some distance I assume, the princess sees him and she thinks he's just wonderful. So she comes to him one night while he's in a holding pen of some kind waiting to be turned loose in the labyrinth, and he explains to her that he's going to kill the Minotaur. And she asks him, how are you going to do that? And he doesn't have the foggiest idea. At this, the princess falls madly in love with him. This guy is brave, he's strong, and hasn't got a brain in his head. Obviously, he's marriageable material. The princess's name is Ariadne. Ariadne goes and gets a dagger to give him so that he can kill the Minotaur, and she gives him something called a clue. Now, in Greek, a clue is a ball of yarn, and he needs this ball of yarn so that he can string it out as he's going through the labyrinth, kill the Minotaur, and then be able to find his way back. In fact, he does find the Minotaur, he does kill it, he does find his way back, and he picks up Ariadne and they take off in his ship. Now at this point there's a couple of different versions. One version is they land at Cyprus and she dies in childbirth at Cyprus, he having abandoned her sometime before that. In any event, as Theseus is coming home in his boat, there's a prearranged signal. The color of the sail, whether it's white or black, will tell the city whether Theseus is alive or is dead. And for some reason, which is not terribly clear, the wrong sail is hoisted on the ship as it comes into view. And the result of that is the king of Athens believes that his son is dead, and he jumps off a cliff into the Aegean Sea. His name was Aegis, and that's how the Aegean Sea got its name. Now, that means that when Theseus lands, he's king of Athens. And I suspect that there is more to this story than the Greeks knew, or were telling at least. I suspect that maybe that sail business was not a mistake. that the king committed suicide to make way for Theseus, but that's neither here nor there. The point is, bulls were big in Crete. They were very important in the religion, and that's reflected in the mythology.
The first archaeologist here in Crete was Sir Arthur Evans.
Evans began his search in a hilltop settlement called Knossos. He soon found something that was beyond his wildest dreams.
Now, when Arthur Evans, the first archaeologist to work on Crete, started his work at Knossos, one of the things that he noticed was that there were a fair number of depictions of bulls. And that brought the story of Minos to mind, and that's why he referred to the culture as Minoan. The bulls seem to have been involved in some kind of a bull leaping ceremony. It was probably part of the religion, but of course that's not entirely clear. What happened was young guys got in front of the bull. They grabbed the bull's horns, and as the bull was about to make contact with them, it naturally threw its head up, and as it did that, because they had hold of the horns, it threw the boys over the back of the bull, and the boys did a somersault and landed on the ground behind the bull. Incidentally, it may not have been just boys that were doing this bull leaping. Boys in Minoan art are usually depicted in red. Girls are usually depicted in white. Sir Arthur Evans also noticed other aspects that might have tied in with the old Minoan legends. For example, the palace itself was spread over a very long distance, very large distance, and it had over 1,000 rooms in it. And those buildings were 3, 4, 5 stories high, something that was unheard of in this period of time. We're talking about roughly 1500 BC. Incidentally, the symbol that we're zeroing in on represents the bull's horns in Minoan art. Sir Arthur Evans discovered an amazing architectural design, and the frescoes were absolutely fantastic. This brings up a question. Was there a mathematical error? Was there a problem with translating from the Egyptian to the Greek? Was it not 9,000 years before the time of Solon, but only 900? If it was 900, then the Minoan civilization may very well be the one that is the inspiration for Atlantis. Maybe it was Atlantis.
Could translation errors also have obscured the time period when Atlantis existed? Solon claimed it was at its peak 9,000 years before his own time, but 900 years is more likely. It was then that cultures strikingly similar to that of Atlantis thrived throughout the eastern Mediterranean. Could the lost continent simply have been one of these civilizations?
When my guide showed me some script that looked like this, she asked me if I could read it, and I said no, and neither can you. The fact is, no one can. This is the script that was used by the Minoans, but it's going to be able to help us, I think, to determine how large the Minoan Empire, or at least the cultural area, was. Now, in comparison, there is another script that was developed after this script. It's called Linear. This is called Linear A. The next one is called Linear B. Linear B was broken by the decoder Michael Ventris in the 1950s. It turns out to be Greek, and it's associated with Mycenaeans on the mainland. This map shows where Linear A writings have been found on the island of Crete. You can see that for all practical purposes, it's all over the island. This next map shows a little bit broader view of the Aegean Basin, and this indicates where Linear A script has been found in those locations. In addition, there is indication that there was a Minoan colony in the delta during the Egyptian Hyksos period. The Hyksos were those folks that knew Joseph in the Bible. And there may also have been colonies in Syria and what is now Israel.
In the Atlantis myth, the external walls of the great palaces were said to shine like silver. Today, the gypsum walls of Knossos have been eroded by the elements, but in their full glory, they too would have sparkled. A vast royal residence, a place of worship and ceremony at the center of an advanced and wealthy civilization. Using their latest evidence, our team applies state-of-the-art imaging techniques to rebuild this prehistoric palace. We can now see the structure as it would once have stood here, supported by huge redwood pillars. Many believe this was Atlantis. That same harmony can be seen here, in the order and symmetry of the building's engineering, in the way it makes use of the natural flow of the elements. The palace engineers were masters at controlling the path of air and light through the depths of the palace quarters. They devised systems that appear advanced even today, even though they are almost 4,000 years old. Internal rooms were divided with an ingenious system known as pier and door partitioning. Rows of pillars were linked by discrete wooden shutters which could be controlled independently of each other. They could be set to block the path of a cold wind or channel a breeze to the palace's innermost room. At the very heart of the palace is the central court, providing light and air to all areas of the complex. To the east is the royal quarter, a multi-story structure to rival anything described in Plato's accounts of Atlantis. At its heart, a huge 4-story spiraling staircase was built around pillared balconies, open to the elements to form a vast light well.
But Knossos cannot be Atlantis, because Atlantis, in the course of a day and a night, was submerged, and Knossos was never submerged. That leaves us looking for another suspect.